and welcome to Thrift Shop Biography. This is the one about Elvira. Thank you for listening. Hello.
Hi.
So this week I've had enormous fun reading the autobiography of Elvira.
So have I.
Good. I'm dying to talk to you about it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, firstly, I didn't know who she was.
Really?
It's the first one I actually didn't know who she was. It was your find.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it and it just kind of, wow, I'd forgotten all about her. But then it's weird because she is essentially a character. You kind of think, oh, is this the autobiography of the character or the woman behind it?
It's like an autobiography of Dracula.
So I was so intrigued. So you literally knew nothing about her?
I really didn't know who she was. And then having watched some clips, I recognise it's familiar. I must have seen her, but I really wouldn't have said
it's an iconic image. I have to be honest with you. I don't know too much about her. I don't really know how much she crossed over to the United Kingdom. But she's a cult figure, but I think especially in America.
Yeah, she's the Queen of Halloween, I've learned.
Mm-hmm.
See, I know Morticia. I used to watch The Addams Family. I know The Addams Family. She's kind of that character.
She's a similar character.
Similar, yeah. But a little bit more edgy. She's like a pin-up for rock dudes.
A gothic Marilyn
goth
Monroe.
Dudes. Yeah.
So, I mean, coming to this book, I knew nothing and I was just completely thoroughly entertained. I mean, she's so funny.
She's really funny.
Like, I was lolling.
Yeah.
Look, should we just get into it?
Yes, let's start. Who is this woman?
Oh, okay, because Elvira obviously is not her real name.
Her actual name is Cassandra Peterson.
It's only through reading this book I've discovered what she looks like when she's not Elvira.
Oh, right.
It couldn't be more different. To the point where it's kind of like, oh my God, you're an imposter. You're not Elvira.
If she didn't still have massive boobs, you might question it, but you can't get rid of them. Can't wipe them away with a sponge.
No, so she's very different looks-wise. And it is weird. Like, this book is so fantastic. And she goes on so many adventures. At one point, I did think to myself, oh, okay, this is a fictionalized autobiography of the character, Elvira. But then no, because in the book, she's Cassandra. Yeah. Which is her real self. And then it all makes you think, wow, she's just had a really entertaining life.
She has had an entertaining life. And she's also just an ordinary grafter.
Mm-hmm.
Who happens to have grafted in a bit of showbiz. Oh no, that's not quite true because, oh my God, the scrapes and the people she's met. Anyway, so 1951, she were born in Manhattan, Kansas. Who even knew Kansas had a Manhattan?
No.
Rural farming life again. Really normal. Her parents, she says a lot, they absolutely loved each other. They danced together all the time. They kissed each other all the time. They were totally in love with each other. Almost to the point of exclusion to even, have you got any spare love for anyone else, including your kids? Why did you have kids? That. It's a bit that, isn't it?
Yeah.
She pulled over a boiling pot of very hot water when she was very young, like 1 or 2, and totally and utterly scalded herself to the point of near death, basically. They really had to struggle to revive her. Skin grafts, all of that.
Yeah, she had scars on 35% of her body.
Oh, and she says her baby sister Melody was born right in the middle of her having those extreme burns.
Right.
And she grew up as a person who considered herself hideously scarred. And that kind of view of herself remained, really.
Yeah.
She never thought of herself as beautiful. She covered herself in makeup and clothes and all these stuff that hides yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But she was quite scarred for a long, long time. Even Tom Jones mentioned it later.
Yes, well, we'll get on to him.
We will.
I'd say that he left a few scars of his own.
I would say so.
Yes, that's a horrendous thing to happen to a tiny child. And a horrendous thing to happen to her parents as well. Absolutely awful.
Yeah.
Okay, so other than being half scolded, she did just kind of have a bit of a regular upbringing in Midtown, Kansas.
Yeah, sounds pretty normal. What is amazing to me is the reason they moved, they ended up in Colorado Springs, and the reason they moved is because they dammed the town and flooded the whole valley. So everyone had to move out. And then later, when she drove back to visit, a church spire was poking out of the lake.
How
Isn't that
strange.
spooky?
Yeah.
Imagine snorkeling. You go snorkeling around.
Oh,
and
do you
look
know
at
what?
the
I
whole
bet
village.
they do. They often turn
Divers.
those places into free diving and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, I love that thought. There you go. It's already spooky. She says her mother was a narcissistic mother and very demeaning. So low self-esteem.
Yeah. And her dad. Her mum and dad used to hit her, right? It's such a running theme in these books, abusive parents.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
She doesn't go much into it, but she saw her first scary movie aged 8, which was The House of Usher.
Based on an Edgar Allan Poe short
That's
story.
right. And it was Vincent Price, and she totally fell in love with it. She is not acting this character. She is a goth woman.
Mm-hmm.
She's attuned.
Yeah, she was never drawn like, I think her sister Melody was into her Barbie dolls and little Cassandra was not.
No, she really is on the dark side. She loves it. She loves it. Her mother got into costumes, making costumes, and then costume rentals, and then they opened their own costume rental shop. So that's what they ended up doing. So she had access to crazy clothes. I mean, they just became her clothes when they started out as costumes.
Yeah, right.
And films was massive to her. So the one thing that flipped her mind was the Elvis film Viva Las Vegas with Anne Margaret.
Anne Margaret, here we are again.
So cool, who also Elvis fell in love with. In Viva Las Vegas, she's absolutely amazing. It was the height of the 50s. It felt like the 60s, but she was so cool. She was shaking her ass. She was so liberated and strong and free. And Elvis loved her. Mm-hmm. So you're like, that's who I want to be.
Also, one thing that I had to keep remembering when I was reading about Cassandra's childhood is that she doesn't look like a little Elvira.
No, she doesn't.
Because that's the character. She's actually a really pretty little redhead.
Yeah.
So she's kind of like a mini Anne Margaret anyway, isn't she?
Yes, true. Yeah, and then Beatlemania hit, and then she grew overnight massive tits.
That's the way she said it in the book.
Yeah.
Honestly, she's so funny.
She is really funny.
Yeah.
12 years old, and she was buying push-up bras as well, just to accentuate them.
God. Yeah, and then at 14, she was shaking them in the nightclubs.
Yeah.
So there was a nightclub called Hullabaloo in town, and they had a go-go dancing competition. And she entered it, and I think she came second, but the prize was a job dancing at other nightclubs. And she was only 14. She obviously didn't tell them. Oh, she talks about forging IDs and stuff, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So at 14, she was actually already a go-go dancer in various nightclubs around town. But she would still have to get up and go to school in the morning. She ended up doing really badly at school. Kind of turns out that doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter if you've got massive tits. Gonna get work. Yeah, and then she turned herself into a junior groupie, which is very confusing because she is a virgin. She wanted to remain a virgin, but she absolutely loved, well, she really loved music and she loved all the boys in the band. She wanted to sleep with them, but she didn't. So it must have been confusing to them as well.
I think that if you are 14 and you know that groupies are a thing, but you're not sexually experienced in yourself, you probably don't make that connection, actually, that you're having to sleep with the band. You might think, you're just hanging out with them and that's really cool.
Yeah, and she loved the attention and she was up for a snog, definitely.
But she didn't have sex with them.
She didn't. She said she was hanging out with Led Zeppelin, or was that before they were Led Zeppelin? She was Yardbirds.
You know what?
Jimmy Page walks his room, grabs her, takes her to his room, throws her on the bed and gets on top of her. I mean, he doesn't even know who she is. It's that. They haven't put themselves to be there for the taking, though. They haven't, have they?
No, they haven't.
They don't understand.
But I think there should be other adults within that environment who aren't filthy rock stars who should be stricter at letting underage girls come backstage.
I know.
But I think there's just a lot of permissive listeners. A lot of people just don't care.
I know. It's interesting because people always say, yeah, but those girls were throwing themselves at those blokes. And this is one girl talking, and you get a bit more into her head. It's really confused. They think those blokes might love them. They love them, you know. They love the boys in the band, and they think that maybe love comes from it. And they don't understand that those blokes just see them as very sexy meat to have sex with. They don't necessarily understand that. And so whilst they are sort of throwing themselves at them, they're also not, because they're confused because they're so young.
It's just like letting a child go into a snake pit.
She's loving it, this life, though. She's tracking down all the bands. She's hanging out with them. She meets everybody.
Do you know what I find amazing? Is that one of her go-go dancing jobs is at the army base. Because the government pay for entertainment for the troops to keep them happy while they're waiting. And they don't know how old she is.
That's true.
Because she's lied about her age. So the tax-paying dollar is going towards these women go-go dancing for the soldiers on the army base. Isn't that strange?
Some people say that's essential to keep them going.
So she's growing up quickly.
Yeah, she turns into a hippie and starts smoking pot. Then someone gives her...
What, the LSD?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. So this really made me chuckle. So, somebody told me once that when you get LSD, it's on these little tiny pieces of paper. But what she didn't realise was how small they were. So her and her friends went out and scored a few bits and they were all joined together. She just necks a whole thing in one.
6 tabs of acid she ate at one time. She'd never had it before.
Which obviously pissed her friends off.
But Jesus Christ, she wouldn't wish that on anyone, the trip she was on. And her friends obviously didn't understand because they just drove to her house and dumped her on her own front yard.
Oh my God, she's there tripping for 2 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's horrendous.
But also quite comical the way she tells it.
Yeah, the way she tells it is funny, yeah.
But what a nightmare.
Yeah.
To 16-year-old be tripping off your tits. Oh, she said that she'd moved downstairs in her parents' house and she painted the whole thing black and made it like a crypt. So she was off her head tripping
in a crypt. Oh, God. Then, she was getting gigs in drag bars.
Yeah.
I mean, she gets into the gay scene pretty early and she loves it.
She also, the drag performers allow her to perform. They know she's a go-go dancer. So then she begins lip syncing to show tunes and stuff. And then when she gets a job at the titty bar down the road, I think it's called the Body Shop, she introduced lip syncing to show tunes in the titty bars and people just weren't having it.
Yeah, right.
But no, that's the beginning of the drag thing, is at the beginning of a lifelong relationship with gay men, especially.
Yeah.
And she's embraced on it. But then when you think about it, I know she's not there yet, but Elvira is essentially drag. I know she's a woman.
It's very much like a drag act. Yeah. It's very camp.
Yeah. The humour in this book is camp humour, isn't it? Oh my gosh, she's just so funny. It is. So entirely funny. Yeah. I love her.
Oh, one really cool thing is there's a festival in Denver and she near the front and she gets hit by tear gas because it's all getting out of control. So the next thing she knows, she's been carried over the barriers and backstage and sort of comes to and there's Jimi Hendrix. Yes. Fantastic. And she's in love with Jimi Hendrix. Absolutely. That's her ultimate hero. And they just chat for ages and he's asking what's going on out there. She's explaining about the riots. They have a nice little chat. And then he gives her his number, which you would. And when she phones it, there's a big party and there's no way he's coming to the phone. But it doesn't matter because she's had the Jimi Hendrix experience.
So then she's 17 now. This is the end of the 60s. She's 17. And she ends up going to Las Vegas with her parents.
On
holiday. And whilst they're there, she really wants to go and see one of the showgirls' performances. And her parents aren't too keen, but she begs them. So they all go together. And they're sat there watching the show. And young Cassandra is approached by a talent scout who says you should come and try out to be a dancer. And of course, she knows full well that she's 17, but she's like, oh my God, I'd love to be a showgirl in Vegas. So she's given a try. Her parents say, okay, go and try out. And of course, they love her. But she's only 17 and she admits to the people in the club, oh, I'm only 17. And they're kind of like, oh, okay, who cares? But then her mum and dad aren't so keen initially to let her go.
Fair enough.
But she keeps on and eventually they do sign the contract that allow her to go. So at the age, she's just turned 18. Hey, here's something. She says at the age of 18, just before she goes to Las Vegas, she buys a Firebird with the money that she's made go-go dancing. Yeah. So she's been making bank, right?
She really has, hasn't she? And saving.
Yeah, right, because she's living in her parents' crypt.
Yeah, that'll do it, yeah.
So she's done rather well for herself, shaking her oversized titties around town as a teenager.
They're really working for her already. So she goes to Vegas. She goes to Circus Circus, which was a new hotel at the time. I've stayed there.
Have you stayed there?
Yeah, it's really cool. You walk in the lobby and there's a circus that goes on over your head, an actual circus.
What, with
Trapeze
elephants?
things. No, it's all human. But it's in the lobby of the hotel. I mean, it's that cool. The first thing she does, I think she's in the toilets, but she meets a girl and they start chatting. She says, "Oh, come and join our house share." It all sort of falls into place really nicely. She makes friends.
She is actually, because she's too young to be a showgirl, she is actually the youngest by a few years, right?
Yeah.
And so she does feel intimidated by everyone, not least a dancing teacher who's just really mean to her, right?
Yeah.
And makes her wish like she'd never gone.
Mm. The show's called Vive les Girls.
Vive les Girls.
Topless showgirls.
Oh, she meets her friend. This friend goes on a date with someone who's got a mate. So she says to Cassandra, "Come on this double date with me." And she says, "The couple of like foreign bodybuilders." And her friend's date turns out to be a very young Arnold Schwarzenegger.
It's really funny. Yeah. It says they go to those all-you-can-eat buffets. Yeah. And Arnie eats so much meat that the next day they go back. Yeah. As soon as they see him coming, they hide the meat and say, "Oh, sorry, we've run out." Yeah.
She's in Las Vegas at that golden period where all the shows are cabaret shows like Ike and Tina Turner, the Osmonds. I think Frank Sinatra's even there, right? Little Richard, amazing.
Jacksons. She said Michael's 7 or 8 and a 5-year-old Janet came on stage and stole the show. She's right there. Oh no, she's out on a date, right, with the whole Osmonds family. She's supposed to be with one of the blokes, probably Donnie. I don't know.
There's quite a few.
He might be 5 as well, I'm not sure. But she's with the whole family, and it was the opening of Nancy Sinatra's show. And so she gets to meet Frank, and she's absolutely made up because obviously he's a legend, and he just looks her up and down and says, "Nice tits."
Mm.
Oh, I don't need to say what that means to her. Unbelievably demeaning. And she says years later she's in a hat check girl job because she's still not famous. And Frank comes in and hands in his coat and hat and she spits in his hat. You just don't go around being rude to the people on their way up because they'll get you on their way down. No, on your way down, on your way up. Doesn't matter. Yeah, you just don't be rude to people.
Just be nice to everyone.
Be nice.
Yeah. While she's a showgirl in Vegas, she gets some attention from a certain Elvis Presley.
Yeah, that's a good story. It's the story of her dreams, because Elvis comes to see their show. Of course he did.
Yeah.
And they're really excited. And then afterwards, he got one of his men to come over and ask specifically her to come to his penthouse suite at the Hilton.
Her, the youngest showgirl in Vegas.
Youngest
I wonder why
with the biggest
Elvis
tits
would like her.
Got selected. Yeah. But they talked for hours. And they really bonded mentally. And she told him all about her, that she got into all of this stuff because of watching Viva Las Vegas. And they sat at the piano and sang together. And he said she had a really nice voice and that she needs to get singing lessons and she needs to get out of Dodge because there's no future in Vegas. You'll hit the drugs, you'll go under. Get out while you can.
She said how anti-drugs he was.
Yeah. She reckons it saved her life, Elvis's advice, because she did exactly that.
Isn't that amazing? It saved her life, but it didn't save Elvis's own life.
Oh, yeah. That's sad.
Yeah.
That's a downer. Thanks, Richard.
He's dead. Did you not know?
Yeah, no, it's like... Oh, it's a really happy story before you said that.
Oh, sorry. Go on, I'll edit me out. Go on.
No. Anyway, so she did that. And before she left, they had a snog. Best one yet, I imagine. And then he let her stay in the spare room. It's perfect, really, because he really talked to her. He really listened to her. He gave her good advice. They had a snog, which they both got something out of, but he didn't abuse the situation, and she slept in a guest bedroom.
It's very interesting that happened, the way she tells it, because I'm under no illusions with this woman. If there had been any form of sexual contact, we'd know about it.
She would have told us, yeah.
This is new information about Elvis to me, that he did just have a very nice evening with a young woman and they just chatted.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Well, he was on so many uppers and downers, he's probably about to pass out, to be fair.
Or he couldn't get it up. Not like Tom Jones, who had no trouble getting it up.
No, that's too large.
I was actually shocked reading this, and I don't even want to talk about it in this podcast. Shall I just say it very, very quickly?
Do it.
She had a night of... Well, he took her virginity, right?
She said she'd lost her virginity very recently. She'd gone home for a little short visit and lost her virginity with an old friend.
Okay. And then she met Tom Jones, whose dick was so big she lost her virginity all over again.
Yeah.
She had a night with Tom Jones and had to go to the emergency room.
But she's so deluded and young, she thought it was love and went back to see him the next day and he was with someone else. And he was really dismissive. She was really upset because she thought sex was love. That's what I think is the problem here.
It's because her parents were just so loved up. To the point of exclusion of their own kids. That's how she's viewing male and female relationships.
Yes, and so you're looking for love and you see it through sexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were snogging all the time, so that's what love is. Oh, yes.
So she's still only 18 at this point.
Yeah.
She's been busy, hasn't she?
But a lot's happened. She goes to Paris for a bit and she tries out for the Bluebells, which is...
Le Bluebells.
Le Bluebells. The same sort of go-go dancing in a line, I think.
Go-go dancing in a line?
Isn't that about what it is? So she goes to Rome and she becomes an extra in a Fellini film.
Well, that's weird how that happens because there was a guy in Las Vegas making a documentary about the showgirls and she's just wandering around Rome and she bumps into this guy.
She's roaming around.
She's roaming around.
She's roaming the streets.
And she meets this guy who's now working on the new Fellini film called Roma. So she's roaming around. She's roaming around Rome, and she ends up with a part in Roma.
She runs into Roma. Yes.
When you think about her, she is quite Fellini-esque.
Yes.
She's
yeah, well, you need big tits
Yeah.
and small everything else. That's it, really, isn't it? I mean, like waist, legs, whatever, small body, big tits, Fellini. Is that right? I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that
I think
just
I've accurately summarised the whole art movement. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, she had an Italian boyfriend or something, or
Franco.
Brief thing, yeah. And she was staying in his apartment, and somebody said that they thought that he might be a thief. So she looked around his stuff and found all this obviously stolen goods. When he came back to the flat, she asked him what's going on here, and he went, "No, you should never look through my stuff." Bah. I think he threw her around a little bit and then left and locked it. And she was there for 4 to 5 days. Days and nights, no food, nothing. Terrified. And when she finally, a friend of his came and opened the door, she just fled past him. So she left everything. She left her bag, wallet, everything. She's just run for it. No clothes, nothing. And so she basically had to start from scratch. But then the only phone number she had is this girl called Goethe, who was another dancer extra type. And she said, "Yeah, come and stay with me and we'll go around cheating men." They went saying, "Oh, we'll have a threesome. We'll meet you at this time. We need half the money up front." And then they'd bugger off. And so they made a bit of money that way for about a week. And then one morning she woke up and Goethe had cleared off and robbed her of all the money they'd made. She had to start again.
So things aren't going well in Italy.
No.
But she does get a job as a singer in a band. But she finds out she's getting disillusioned for various reasons in Italy anyway. But she then finds out she's only getting paid half of what the men in the band are being paid. So she goes back to America.
Yeah.
So she's back in America. So she goes home with her mum and dad to Denver for a bit, right? But obviously she's not going to hang around there for too long.
No. And she gets cast as a lead nude role in a big show in Miami. Lead role obviously makes her think, I'm going to make it big. And she moves to LA. Now it's time for her to seriously pursue being an actress.
But you need a SAG card for that, right? To be a Screen Actors Guild. But she's also with people she's hanging out with. Goldie Hawn needs like a friend for the day. So they say to young Cassandra, "Will you just look after Goldie Hawn and show her the sights and stuff?" They have a really lovely day. And then Goldie Hawn gets her a one-line part on a sitcom, which means that she gets a SAG card. So now she can be an actor.
Yes. Oh, yeah, she gets a boyfriend who's...
The one who lives in a tree.
Yeah, she goes to a party at Zsa Zsa Gabor's house, as you do. Yeah, oh no, she was with this bloke called Matt, who she went to the party with. And while at that party, she ditched Matt and picked up Bill and moved into a tree.
Yes, so he's living in a tree.
Yeah.
This is bizarre, but she lives in a tree for like a year.
Yeah, it sounds like a bloody great tree, like your dream tree house.
Yeah, it would have to be a house. They literally just live in a tree.
Oh, yeah, no. I'm not sure it had plumbing, though, or anything. I think it's pretty basic. She said it just got boring, like really tiresome after a while.
Yeah, I bet it did.
Oh, but the bloke, Bill, actually once was Tarzan. So I don't know Bill what, but he was...
Oh, he actually was Tarzan.
on the TV, I guess.
I thought she just called him Tarzan because he lived in a tree.
I think he played Tarzan and it had gone to his head a bit.
Oh, my word. That's like method acting, isn't it?
Yes.
She's also getting into the live comedy scene, right? And part of wanting to be an actor is actually she realizes that she does have a gift for comedy, which she so clearly does reading this book. So she wants to get into comedy acting. And so she ends up at the Groundlings in LA, which is the very famous improv group.
Yeah, the training ground for all the improv legends that have ever been. And it's really hard to get into it. And then when you're in, so I read Sarah Silverman's book many years ago. Did you read that?
No, I read it. I gave it to you.
Oh, it's you who gave it me. Oh, great. Well, that's how I know all about them.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that how hard it is to get in. And then once you're in, you're only in the basic group and you have to really work to get into the top group. It took her about 2 years. It took Cassandra, less time, I think. She must be really good. And then she's hanging out with everybody who then forms Saturday Night Live, because it was that long ago. Nowadays, it's the training ground for Saturday Night Live, basically. But then it was accidentally that.
Evolved into it.
Because they started Saturday Night Live. And she does name drop a few of those people. For example, someone called Al Franklin. I imagine if you're American, you know these people.
If you're American of a certain age, you know these people.
And Tom Davis. She said Al Franklin became a senator, and when she was really excited to go and see him because it's her old improv pal, he pretended he didn't know her.
Wow.
By then she was Elvira. And
disappointing.
You don't want to... Yeah, it is really, because she's just playing a part. It's not like she's a porn person.
No, but the thing with the Elvira, the trouble is that there's connotations of dark arts and the devil. So I think if you're a good Christian senator, you probably don't want to be associated with the devil.
But anybody who's sensible knows that's an actress playing a part, and he used to be an actor.
Yeah, I know, but if you're a senator, you know that's the case.
You have to chuck that.
All of the people who vote for you will just take it at face value and think he's associated with the devil. We cannot vote for him because Jesus is on our side. So is it around the time of Groundlings and stuff she's getting into the comedy scene and she becomes part of the Mama Boys ensemble? Is that around this time?
Yes.
And they're kind of like a drag, a comedy, musical cabaret group. And they have success and they tour the country, right? So again, she's the girl in with the group of gay guys and drag queens, right? That's quite an exclusive position, I have to say, that they let women in. They clearly love her.
Yeah, she's an exception, I think. Yeah. By the way, a few dark things happen. She takes a man back to her apartment after the Rainbow Rooms because they're getting on so well, they want to carry on talking, and he rapes her. And then she's at a big party and he's a basketball star called
Will Chamberlain.
Uncle Wilty, is that his real name?
Will Chamberlain is his name, but that's Uncle Will is what they call him.
Right. Yeah. And he's 7'1" and obviously has these amazing parties, but she usually goes with a friend, and this time the friend cancelled on her, so she went on her own. And he just suddenly pushes her down and sticks his dick in her mouth, basically.
She has his photo in the book, and I was surprised at that because he sexually assaulted her. Yeah. But I think it serves a purpose because he's massive and she's tiny. Then she says in his autobiography, he says that he slept with 20,000 women, and she's like, well, I wonder how many of them were actually consensual.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, she put his picture in as well, so that if you don't know who he is, you can clock who he is, and he's named and shamed. She said she felt fear and shame. That stuff really, really doesn't leave you. It
wasn't just like they were known to each other.
Yeah.
I think they'd been friends for a bit.
Yeah, that's really awful. So we should name and shame him here. We just did.
Will Chamberlain.
Boo!
So it's around this time she gets a job with Playboy Models, which is affiliated to Hugh Hefner. It is his Playboy brand. But she says it's not what you think. It's not all titty modelling. It's actually just standard promotional work, and advertising is just part of Playboy Models. So she got some work through them. Although she says she was approached by a husband and wife team who said they were doing some test shots for Playboy, which do require full nudity, but they'll never be seen by anyone ever. It was $300, and she thought, okay, I'll get them done. And she said they weren't seen by anyone ever until she got famous.
Yeah.
And then, of course, these people recognised her and released them, which did cause her some trouble down the road.
Yeah, it did. Oh, okay, get this bit then.
Mm-hmm.
The neighbour murder.
Yeah.
Terrible. She used to hear it all going on next door, all the yelling and screaming and abuse. And then one day they're taking it outside and he's What's he doing to her? Smashing her up.
Yeah, she can hear like a pretty rough argument going on. And by the time she goes outside, her neighbour, the woman, is just a bloody beaten mess at the bottom of the stairs. So she goes over to see if she's all right, but she quite clearly isn't. And she says the man comes down the stairs, looks at Cassandra, and then just takes off. And her neighbour is dead. So as traumatizing as that is, of course, now Cassandra's terrified because she knows that the guy
has seen her
seeing him.
Yep.
So she doesn't want to spend another night in her flat because she's terrified that he's going to come back and bump her off. So she can't point the finger. So she started seeing this bloke. Are they married already? They're living apart.
They get married straight after that, I think. It's this classic sort of thing where you just, one thing leads straight to another, isn't it?
He doesn't have anywhere really to live. She goes and lives with him, but it's a small apartment. So they then look for somewhere to live together. And then this weird thing happens where they go and look at this bungalow, which is empty and ready to move into straight away. And it's empty because the man who owns it was out walking his dogs, and the guy who had just committed the murder bumped into him, like walked past him. So this guy saw him, and he was terrified of that bloke catching up with him, that he moved out of his house straight away. Isn't that weird? But then also, if Cassandra moved into that house, but the murderer came back to look for the bloke.
The other bloke.
And
found
actually
her.
it was her.
Oh my god.
Yeah, the whole thing is bonkers, but horrible.
It's really dark, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, the ups and downs.
So we're like at 1980 now, and she's getting lots of little jobs. Yeah. A bit of modelling here, one-liners here. She's been on Happy Days. I saw that on YouTube.
Did you?
As a burlesque dancer,
Right.
Yeah, it's a really funny scene, actually. So she's getting lots of little one-episode jobs because she's very attractive. But she's kind of going nowhere in terms of a long-term career, and she's 30. Her agent says to her, nobody wants an actress after 30. Anyway, she's newly married, so she goes off on honeymoon, and then her friend phones her and says, you've got to come back because there's this audition for a horror host. You'd be perfect for it. And Cassandra's like, there's just this unwritten rule in LA. The minute you go back for a job, it all falls apart. So she didn't go. Yeah. She just thought, no, I'm on my honeymoon. I'm going to enjoy my honeymoon. Anyway, she went back a week later and they still hadn't found the person. So she went and auditioned. What I think is funny about the audition, because obviously she's still not yet Elvira. She turns up in the audition room and she says, all the other women are completely gothed up and look like horror characters, and there's Cassandra just looking like this beautiful all-American woman. But clearly they liked what they saw.
I think she said she played it really funny. She basically improv'd it and just threw in loads of jokes.
Actually, you're
right. Made them laugh.
Yeah, improv is her strongest suit, isn't it?
Yeah, she really had them laughing. And they're like, yeah, this is the one. They saw like 300 women or something. It's a really huge number.
They actually had someone, because actually, do you know what? I don't think people in the UK will even know what horror hosting is. So should we explain it quickly? Okay. So late night TV might have an evening where they show a few old horror films. And then they will basically, well, it's a bit like a glorified continuity announcer, where they will present to the camera about the film and be funny and be a bit spooky. And they top and tail the horror films with a host. And that's exactly the job that Cassandra was going for. Now, they did in the 1970s, there was a famous male host who was an old actor from those films. And he obviously got too old to do it. But the reason they were looking for an Elvira character is because Mila Nurmi, who used to play the character Vampira, they were going to use her. It was all in place, but then they had some kind of a falling out. And it just became too difficult. They thought, sod it, let's just audition for a new...
Would she have been quite a bit older at that point?
She was 30 years older, so she was going into her 60s.
Right.
For whatever reason, it didn't quite work out, so they auditioned for a new horror hostess, which turned out to be Elvira.
Yeah, they had to rename it, so it went from Vampira to Elvira.
Yeah. I always thought Elvira was named after Elvis.
Oh,
because it's Elvi.
Yeah.
And she kind of looks a bit like Elvis with her black hair and a black upturned collar.
A bit like Priscilla.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always thought that was an Elvis connection, but
she
it wasn't.
absolutely loves him.
Yeah.
It was called Elvira's Movie Macabre.
Yeah.
And there was one a week. She did one a week.
The Elvira look, so obviously she went in looking like Cassandra, and they gave her free reign to go and create the character. Yeah. This is interesting. She said that she worked with her friend. She said that the facial makeup was taken from Kabuki.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And the hairstyle was from the Ronettes. So she's got a Ronnie Spector beehive, but Kabuki makeup.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. You know, Vampira, Mila Nurmi, obviously is very disgruntled at this point.
Yes, she's not happy.
Because it all fell through with her. And now all of a sudden they've got this beautiful woman 30 years younger, looking not dissimilar from Vampira, actually. And she sues for using her likeness.
Doesn't she sue Cassandra personally, though?
Yeah.
Which is outrageous that that's allowed to go through, because she's an employed actress.
She is, and I did think about that, and I wondered if that's because they said to her, you can go and create the character yourself.
Maybe.
So maybe when they came back and she sued, they said, well, it wasn't us, she came up with it.
Yeah, either that, or it was just personally vindictive because she was just really jealous. And angry at her, not thinking whose fault it really is.
Well,
don't know.
Cassandra / Elvira had to find $35,000, and she spent it all on lawyers, and then Mila didn't even show up.
Yeah.
And so the judge determined then that actually she's not breaching copyright because a likeness actually has to be a likeness, it has to look just like you. So it's just a resemblance, and that's okay. And then Mila admits that she took her look, Vampira, from Morticia Addams anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a personal dig because she was jealous. I kind of understand it in a way.
Yeah, but don't attack a poor actress. She had no bloody money. 35 grand to her was probably more than everything.
And do you know what, actually? She didn't let up Mila, because as Elvira's fame grew...
She sabotaged her.
Yeah, because one channel was going to do a cartoon of her.
Oh, she sent her the naked pictures,
Mila
didn't she?
sent her the naked pictures.
Yeah, because that would have been a family cartoon.
Yeah.
And that stopped that cartoon
that stopped that from happening.
Yeah.
Mila has been fucking up her career.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
What a bitch.
Yeah, just let it go, because she's still a hard-working, waitressing, go-go dancing, out-of-work actor who got a job, basically. Yeah. That's who she is.
Yeah, and so she starts off doing Movie Macabre with Elvira, and she's slowly becoming a cult hit, isn't she?
I think around this time she actually bought the rights to Elvira.
Very good move.
Yeah, very good
move.
By the way, her husband, Mark, is her manager at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Just set that up now.
Yeah, and he's producing stuff.
Yeah. Because guess where that's going, people? Anyway... Oh, she got on a circuit tour with Vincent Price, and they became friends.
Amazing. She loved him, didn't she?
Yeah, it also means she got right to the heart of her genre, because if you're touring with Vincent Price, you're in.
Yeah, the horror fans really embraced her, actually.
Yeah. Oh, and Rod Temperton had her as first choice for the spoken words in Thriller.
Yes.
Yeah. And Michael wanted her for Thriller. And it was Quincy Jones who insisted on Vincent Price. Yeah, I root for Quincy Jones and Elvira now. I love them both. Vincent Price was perfect. What can you say? But it would have changed her life.
Yeah, it would have changed her life. And it would have been fun. But I mean, it's hard to imagine anybody else doing it.
It's very hard. I did imagine it, though, with her. It was all right. Yeah. And I tell you what, I'd have heard of her if she was the one on Thriller.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, it's good to know that.
So she's becoming a bona fide celebrity now. The Elvira character, not Cassandra, the woman.
She says she does the Johnny Carson show as Cassandra, but that almost never happened ever again.
I was surprised that they wanted her on as Cassandra.
Yeah.
But amazing that Johnny Carson wanted her on anyway. That just shows you how popular Elvira was becoming.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then in the beginning of the 80s, do you remember there was like that massive 3D boom?
Yeah, it was.
Or where the glasses with red and blue.
Yeah.
They filmed an episode of Movie Macabre in 3D, and so few programs had done this. During the boom, where said people were queuing up for the glasses.
Was it at the cinema then?
No, in TV.
Oh, I was a bit confused by that.
Yeah, no, they did it on TV.
You literally went home with your... Do you know, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, I remember doing it
Having
in the
them
80s.
at home, yeah.
I think there was a free pair of 3D glasses on the front of Looking magazine one week, and they would broadcast 3D things on the TV.
Yes.
Elvira says she really played up to it by like sticking her boobies out. But that really, because there were so few things to actually watch, it just meant that millions of people were tuning in to see Elvira in 3D.
Yeah.
And that really catapulted her.
Yeah, and then they didn't even send her glasses. So she had to go and join a massive queue. And then out of nowhere, the TV cameras rolled up in a car and just picked her randomly in the queue to interview about queuing for glasses and didn't realise it was her.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, are you queuing to get the glasses to see Elvira? And she went, back in a minute.
Yeah.
It's like, how embarrassing would it be if they actually saw that she hadn't got any glasses?
So the character, like you say, she has ownership of the character, of the image.
Yeah.
And she's getting licensing deals now for like beer brands.
Yeah, Coors.
Coors, that's right. I think it's hilarious in
there.
all their advertising material, like in-store standees and
Yeah,
stuff.
people stole them.
Oh yeah, they all got stolen.
They couldn't make them fast enough.
But Coors started saying that we can't have that much cleavage
Yeah,
on
you've got to cover
show.
up your cleavage. Why would you employ her and then cover up her cleavage? Just employ anyone else.
And like she says as well, the target audience is beer drinkers.
Yeah, right.
I think they like boobs.
Yeah, that's right. That's why you put the two things together.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But the Coors boss sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Because he looked at a picture and went, I see the devil in her. But anyway, they finally let her go, and then Pepsi nicked her. They promoted Pepsi with her, and the Coors brewery, their sales really went down without her. And so eventually, they got her back.
She's making money, right?
She can really sell stuff, basically.
Yeah.
The whole thing with Coors is they wanted to make it the beer for Halloween.
Right.
That was their big push, and she's the queen of Halloween, so that's why they employed her. I mean, that's a good thing. If you can convince people that it's Halloween, I must get Coors. That's a good... If no one ever has thought of doing that before.
Oh, she said that she made it the biggest drinking holiday after Christmas.
That's right. It wasn't even a beer-related holiday, and then
Yeah.
everyone suddenly got pissed at Halloween.
So Cassandra's been a jobbing actor for 30 years, and then she gets this funny little job being a spooky hostess on the cable channel. And then within just like 2 or 3 years, she becomes a really marketable brand, which she has ownership of.
Yeah. It's a kind of one of those things where everything's fallen into place because she loves horror. She really loves it. It's kind of... She's found her calling.
It's the authenticity, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing. Things work when people believe it.
Yes.
Like, there's no mistaking Elvira. Like, to the point where I actually, through reading this book, like I said, all of her early years before she came out Elvira, I'm picturing Elvira in my head.
I know, me too.
Even though she is actually Cassandra. That's how authentic that character is.
Yeah.
I had a hard job separating it from the actual woman.
Well, I haven't. Now you say that, I've pictured her wearing that dark wig and that cleavage out in a dark dress the whole way through her
Even
entire
when she was a
life.
14-year-old
Yeah,
go-go
yeah,
dancer.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
me
I have.
too.
I think
me
I
too.
have.
So in 1988, she actually makes a movie, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
She cast as many groundlings as possible.
Oh, sure,
So she's
yeah.
got her friends
yeah,
in.
Yeah.
She lost some friends, the ones she couldn't fit in.
But she says that, like, groundlings, what she said, like, because she'd been in Cheech and Chong movies, she'd been in Pee Wee Herman movies.
they all sort of supported each other as much
Yeah.
as they could. She couldn't get everyone in it.
No, but then she also said that people that Pee Wee Herman couldn't get into his film then fell out with him because of that.
Yeah.
And she said there was a real politics going on, but you can't please everyone.
No.
So, yeah, she got a few of her groundlings friends in.
And she really had her people around her, so it was a really happy time.
Yeah.
Need to
She
watch
said
that.
she auditioned Brad Pitt but turned him down, right?
Yeah.
Because he was just like too sexy or something.
She was like, bloody hell, if I was a bit younger and I wasn't married, oh my God, she wrote a note on the auditions thing going, yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
And the film is a hit initially. It's released in a tough week because Punchline and Gorillas in the Mist are out with Tom Hanks and Sigourney Weaver. So Elvira is number 3 behind them. But then there's this complication with the distributor, right? Which means that 2 weeks later the film is pulled and just completely drops out of the theatres.
Yeah, it ends up having to become a cult classic.
Yeah.
It's the only thing it could happen.
Yeah, which undoubtedly is a cult classic.
Yeah.
Critics hated it, of course, which they should if it's a cult classic.
Yeah, exactly. That's the recipe. Right, and then around this point, her and Mark bought this massive haunted house.
Oh, wow.
The way she finds it's just weird because this chicken was running around and she thought, hey, what is a chicken doing in LA? So she follows it through a hedge and pops out into a haunted mansion garden that's full of chickens. She's like, oh, what's this house? And she keeps revisiting it, and then she sees it's for sale, and she keeps phoning, and finally someone answers. So anyway, it's already weird, but it's a proper gothic haunted mansion type of place. And they buy it, but it's in such a terrible state. They have to pay loads of money to renovate it back to how it originally was. There's not even a working toilet in 6 toilets. But it's seriously weirdly haunted. And when she's swimming in the pool, there's always this dark shadow near the deep end.
Probably just need it cleaned.
You don't believe in any of this. Did you buy any of this, or do you think it's haunted stories?
No, it's just stories.
There's loads of haunted stories in this anyway.
I mean, they're fun.
They're really good. Anyway,
I'm sorry, I don't want to put you off talking about it. Go on.
Anyway, she does discover that a Ziegfeld Folly girl had died in a pool at a party in the house where it was covered in petals and flowers, the pool, for decoration for this party, and the Ziegfeld Folly girl had slipped in and no one had seen her under the flowers, so no one knew she was under there. So anyway, but that's really what happened.
She's a dark shadow.
Could be. And then another time, Mark Hamill, Star Wars legend.
Oh, yeah, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, comes to their house and visits and has a little tour. And he's like, oh, my God, I lived here when I was a student. Yeah. It was a shared house then. How cool.
Yeah.
Hollywood back in the day. And he's like, oh, my God, my housemate actually committed suicide in the bedroom closet. She'd already had the weirdest experiences. Yeah. Creaking.
Oh, not creaking in an old house.
No, actual clunking about. Goodness. Shut up. Actual clunking about, no one's there, all sorts of stuff that you don't believe was good stories.
It's okay. She could be more attuned and receptive to making up bullshit.
Oh, that house could be seriously haunted. Shut up.
It could be. It could be. No, absolutely. I'm going to stay open-minded about this.
Are you?
I think it very easily could be a haunted house, and I think that has nothing to do with keeping him with the Elvira brand.
Oh!
No, but isn't it just perfect that she moves into a haunted house? She's a horror
actually
host.
Haunted. Yes, she is, and it is perfect. Anyway, this is a spooky coincidence. You can't deny it. The bell rings at the gate. Who is it? It's Brad Pitt. No, it's not, because she's massive crush on Brad Pitt, and in fact, lately she's been dreaming about him. Who is it really? It's Brad Pitt. It is Brad Pitt, and he wants to buy the house.
Yeah, he wants to buy it.
They put it up for sale because it was really draining their funds. They never, ever got it to where it should be. And then she'd actually managed to be pregnant at that point, and it would look like it was going through because she'd actually had 6 miscarriages.
Mm-hmm. And she's early 40s at this point, right?
She's early 40s.
Yeah.
And anyway, he kept pestering, and she just couldn't imagine selling the house and moving whilst pregnant. I think she'd just had the baby when he tried another time to buy it, and she went, all right, then have it.
And they didn't move that far away.
Oh, they moved to a house fairly nearby, and Brad Pitt bought that house, and then he started pestering them for the one they moved to as well. So I think he bought that, and they moved somewhere else. What's he like?
She gets invited to host the Halloween episode of Saturday Night Live. And that's great. It's because a lot of her friends work there because of Groundlings. And do you know what? The head honcho, Lorne Michaels, makes it very difficult for her. He keeps cutting her lines. He keeps getting rid of segments that she's in. He brings in another co-host to the point where she thinks, what is going on here? And her friends in the cast, obviously nobody stands up to Lorne Michaels. They feel really awkward about the whole thing. It seems like a vendetta, and it's not ever really cleared up in this book.
It really does.
The only thing that I do know about Lorne Michaels is that he's a terrible misogynist, to the point where there's been discussions about the culture of misogyny on Saturday Night Live. Now, here's something I've learned since doing the Matthew Perry episode. When Jennifer Aniston was given the part of Rachel on Friends, she was also offered a part on the cast of Saturday Night Live. She turned that down because she'd heard about how horrible it was for women on there.
Oh, wow.
Because I would think at that moment in time, mid-90s, Saturday Night Live would have been a much better job than this new sitcom that nobody knew about yet. But anyway, that shows you how horrible
Yeah.
Saturday Night Live is for women.
It does.
But particularly
sound
horrible
horrendous.
for Elvira.
Yeah.
So what should have been a really good, fun job ended up being
Yeah.
just really...
She got crushed.
Yeah.
Bit of naming and shaming there, I feel.
Good.
Rightly so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Elvira is becoming such a commodity that she's offered a sitcom pilot, and it all comes together and they film the pilot, which is on YouTube, and it's hilarious should anybody
Yes.
want to watch
Yes.
it. And she said the response from the audience, because it's filmed in front of a live audience, is really receptive. The people that are working on it are like, gosh, we've not seen anything be received this well on the first episode, and everything looks like it's all going to go through, but the producers on the network nix it. They just say, no, it's not what we want at this moment in time. She's been Elvira for like 10, 12 years at this point, and it's just another massive knockback, not least because the setup of the show, she's a witchy character living with her sister or whatever, and then young niece comes to stay, and she says basically Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which came after, was basically very similar to the show that they were doing. And it's just a shame that her sitcom was kind of not taken on. But
that Sabrina's based on the young character. Maybe they decided to aim it to the younger audience instead of the...
Yeah, it's a good show, actually.
Which one?
Both. No, Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
I've not seen it.
Oh, it's fun. But the Elvira, I watched the pilot of the Elvira show this week, and you think it would have made a fantastic series.
Yeah.
Because she's just such a good character.
She's really funny,
Yeah.
She's really comedy.
Yeah, she really is.
Yeah.
So they do more films.
Yeah.
But they self-finance the new films, right?
Yes.
So it's Elvira and the Haunted Hills. They're not massive successes, but they satisfy the cult audience, and I think they sell a few VCR tapes and stuff. So things are still happening for Elvira to this day. This character has completely lasted. I mean, I guess one of the pluses of being a character is that it can actually pretty much look the same for 40 years. Do you know what I mean?
That's it,
because it's the same wig and the same dress and the same makeup. Yeah.
By the way, this one of those films they did, her husband Mark of 25 years, just really ramped up the abusive aspect of his character, and she kind of drops in that he was verbally abusive and she had a crap relationship and a terrible life with him and just put up with it. She gives an example of him just kicking off out of nowhere. She's treading on eggshells all the time. She never had any money. He could just go and buy a car. He'd have a massive go at her if she spent $5 on anything. So she was being really abusively controlled. She obviously doesn't really want to go into it, but that's absolutely what her life was. She got out of it, and he took everything, yet again. Another artist whose manager leaves with all of their earnings from their whole life's work, yet again.
It's a running theme.
He buys a massive house and takes the kid, incidentally, as well. So to have co-parenting rights of any sort and to see the kid at all, she moves into a very small house near to him.
Wow.
That's just crap. Anyway, into her life at this very, very low point comes the trainer from the gym, the woman who's called T. She's left a relationship herself and she was really broken, had nowhere to go, and turned up at her door and said, please, could I stay with you for a bit? And it turned out it's exactly what she needed, because she was a friend and they just got on really well. And when she was looking after the kid, it was like another parent, and they really supported each other and eventually fell in love. And it really surprised her, and it confused her, because although she spent all her life in gay bars, it was more male gay people, and she realised that she wasn't as cool with it as she thought. She had to really get her head around it because she didn't see herself as gay. But they were sexually very compatible, and she completely found the love of her life, and they're still together, and it's a happy ending.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
I looked at photos of them together online, and they just look gorgeous together. Well, she's kind of a bit spooky and Halloweeny, so we need the misery, but it's nice to know that she ends up very, very happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's accidentally grown older, but she doesn't look it.
No, it looks amazing.
Yeah, she's a timeless woman.
Yeah, she really is. And so funny. So very, very funny. In fact, I'm going to say we've read 50 books now, more or less. Funniest book by far. It just really just kept making me laugh so much.
Yeah.
And I had no expectations when I started reading it.
Well, I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
I had less.
Oh, it was such a joy, this book. I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Thrift Shop Biography. We love making this podcast and we're absolutely thrilled that so many of you are already listening. We're new to this and you could really help us out by leaving us a review somewhere, wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you could share us, tell your friends about us or drop some links on social media. We have a Facebook page called Thrift Shop Biography, so make sure you come over there to hear about the episodes first and what else we're up to. Okay, see you next week. And if you're new here, there are loads more episodes now to go and listen in the back catalogue, so make sure you go and enjoy them. Okay, thank you very much.